Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. Welcome back to another episode of 3 Points Perspective, the show where myself, Nina, and Charlie talk all things Chelsea, and we dim it down to just 3 points. I know there's a lot more to talk about than just 3 points, but we've got to go with the theme of the show. Okay, before we start, I want to give a little shout out to our sponsors, Match Bingo. Guys, if you haven't heard of this, it's bingo with a twist. Instead of playing with numbers like you would in normal bingo, you play with things that happen in a match. So let's say I had a card. I might have goals on a card. If there was lots of goals in the game, I would win, and then the prize money would come out of that. If I had something a bit different, like players hitting the post, that obviously wouldn't work as well. So my bingo card would probably not win. It's only £2 to enter. You've got to be 18 or over. Guys, there is a link in the description below. Click it, download Match Bingo, and let us know how you get on. We will be giving shout outs to the winners. But we're going to get straight into it, guys. Nina, how are you doing? How are things at the moment?
I'm great. I'm really enjoying this weather that suddenly hit London, 20 degrees. Bring it on. No Chelsea this particular weekend as well when the sun's out. So that's a positive. We can leave that for Monday night. But yeah, other than that, just busy as always. But yeah, keeping well.
Why am I the only one wearing not wearing a Chelsea shirt?
Well, see, this was telepathic between me and Charlie this morning. We woke up and I thought, you know what? I haven't worn a Chelsea shirt recently. It's summer and I picked this beauty.
There you go. Are you actually going out in it, though, or are you just wearing it at home?
Okay, a bit exposed. I'm just wearing it at home, but still. I'm going to be out in the garden, so that technically still counts as out.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Charlie, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Yeah, nice not to play on the weekend, I suppose. Can't be ruined, but yeah, mate, doing all right. We just need to, hopefully things can get a little bit better because there have been some pretty shit results. So yeah, let's hope things improve and we can finish the season strongly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to get into a lot of the recent news that's come out. There's a number of points we're going to cover. Pochettino, obviously, a running topic. Every week we seem to talk about him. And also a lot of the finances from last season have come out the books. We're going to touch on that. And then we're going to go on to the Everton preview as well. Let's start with Pochettino. Let's start there. I mean, I'm going to just say this, guys. I did the Blue Balls podcast with Kev, Dan, and Don. For the first time, well, not the first time, but for the first concrete time, I really do feel like time is running out. That's how I feel. And the more I think about Sheffield and the more I think about the tactics and the way he set us out and just generally the way things are playing out, it just doesn't look like it's working. And this will come as a surprise to a lot of people because I've been very clear that I think Poch deserves more time. But there is a standard. There is a standard. And even if we would have been within touching distance of Europe and we would have still competed, we wouldn't get there, but we could see a clear identity building. At the beginning of the season, you might not see it as much as you would at the end of the season because the manager has more time to work with the players. But I'm struggling. I really am struggling after seeing what Poch did with Gallagher, after seeing the substitutions that ended up bottling the game for us. For me, Kev shouting in my ear saying I was a dickhead. Why are you supporting Pochettino? The more I think about it, I always said this. And if it's the case, I will hold my hand up and I'll say I was wrong. This man has to go. I'm not there yet. But for me, it's just a matter of time. And I would love it to turn around, but I'm struggling to see where that's going to come from.
But all I would say is just be careful what you wish for. This is not me defending the manager, but everyone wanted Potter gone. I mean, Alex, even the three of us, I think we were pretty much,
till the very end,
stuck with it until you're thinking, actually, do you know what? This can't carry on. But, you look back now and getting rid of Graham Potter, I'm not saying it was a mistake, But we would be doing, in my opinion right now, we'd be doing no worse if Potter was still here. Maybe we might be doing slightly better. Who knows? At least we could defend under Graham Potter. So all I'm saying is, like, yes, the results might be good enough. Yes, Pochettino is not doing a particularly good job. But it's also fair to say that this is a very difficult job. I think it's probably a lot harder than we might have thought. I think it's a lot harder than people, give it credit for being. And yeah, okay, you can say get rid of the manager, but that doesn't guarantee that anything actually gets any better. If someone else comes in, I swear people seem to think that, we're suddenly going to be a top 4 side. No, we're not. It's always been more than just the manager. And the Graham Potter thing is a prime example. I bet now if you ask people, was it right to get rid of Potter, having had 12 months fast forwarded from it, you probably say, no, it wasn't. So, I'm not saying you just stick with the manager because it might get worse if you put someone else in. You don't just stand by someone if there's no signs of progress. But you've also got to assess the managerial market this summer, the sort of manager that we would be going for. And you look at it, and for me, I just look out there and I think, right, realistic options. A, there's not that many, and B, they're all a massive risk, and they have lesser CVs than Pochettino does before he took the job. So
yeah, let me just go back to this, Charlie. You make a great point, and I agree with that point. But then the counter argument is, who cares about the CV? He's not doing it.
No. Look, I understand that, but who's to say, right? All these people that want the manager out, right? Someone else comes in. What happens inevitably when we do shit? We go on a poor run of results, and everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's got to go." At some point, as a fan base, we and the club, we have to back a manager through a difficult period of time. Otherwise, this project, whatever it is never going to get off the ground because you're constantly going to be failing at the first hurdle. Because as soon as you have a bad run of results, everyone's like, "Oh, the manager's got to go." That is not a sustainable way of operating. And look, I'm not saying you just stick with someone because we don't want to be chopping and changing managers. But there is one thing this football club needs more than anything is stability. And if you get rid of another manager, it's anything but stable. And we're starting again for the third time in 2 years. No, that's not good. That's not sustainable. And look, I'm not saying that he's done an amazing job. He absolutely hasn't. There are some things that he's done well, and there's a lot of things that he hasn't done well. Absolutely. But, there was an interesting article from The Athletic the other day, like over in the £1 billion spend, over £500 million of that talent hasn't even played 50% of the minutes available since they joined. Like, how it's very difficult to judge what we are right now because we haven't got all our tools available. So yes, with what we've had, we should be doing a little bit better for sure. But, I think it's difficult to judge the spend. It's a complete waste of money when over half that money's not even played half the minutes that have been available. So yes, you can criticize Pochettino. Yes, you can say that you want a different manager. All I'm saying is just look at the Graham Potter thing. The grass isn't always greener. The options aren't that great. And what are you lot going to do when when a potential next manager, as I said, goes for a difficult run? What are you going to do? Say that he's got to go as well? It's just boring. At some point, we have to back a manager for a difficult period of time. And until people start to understand that, then this is going to go nowhere, and we're just going to keep going backwards as a club.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I've held on for so long as well, because I've always been torn at the fact, like the point you make, Charlie, about we can't keep chopping, changing managers. I think that's where it's difficult, because I think people do understand that. People do understand that at some point down the line, we have to just pick a manager and stick by him regardless.
I don't think they do understand that, though.
Yeah, I know we do understand that, but at the same time,
I don't think people do.
But people still, like, you can still not believe in the manager. It's not necessarily the fact that you want him gone because results aren't going well now. You can still stick by a manager when results haven't gone well and you're not where you want to be in a season, but you believe there's something there. But a lot of Chelsea fans don't believe that with Pochettino anymore, and that's the problem, that they don't look at him and think, okay, we can hang on to this one season, maybe another 2 seasons, because we see what the philosophy is here, and we see exactly what you want done with this Chelsea team. And we've seen that he has been helpless in many occasions this season, and I suppose any manager would. That's why I've defended him in particular. I said any manager that walked through the door saw and took the Chelsea job would have faced so many endless difficulties, because it's not just one thing. It's not just putting together one squad. It's everything that comes with it. The difficulty of the takeover of ownership, players coming in constantly, injuries consistently happening, and in the meantime, opposition doing very well. So, like, mixing all those factors, this job wouldn't have been easy on anyone. And I guess that's what it is. But for me, I now see that people just don't believe in him anymore. It's not necessarily a reactionary thing where, mate, this is not good enough for Chelsea. It's more, you're not going to be good enough for Chelsea. And I'm starting to see that a little bit. And I think it's okay that Pochettino just might be a very good coach. I think he's a good coach. He just might not be a brilliant one, or he might not be a winning coach, or a coach that takes you consistently to finals and is able to win them. You know, like, for example, Thomas Tuchel, he's a winning manager. He can win trophies, etc. But I just think that people don't believe in him. And I think with Graham Potter, it was a similar thing, because he just started to look really helpless in presses. He didn't really know what he wanted done with this team. And I think, frankly, he kind of just gave up a little bit as well, didn't he? But yeah, I do agree. And that's why I've held on for so long, because we need to at some point build an affinity with a manager. We need to just try and see where this goes. And yeah, no, it's difficult. It is really difficult. But I do agree with Charlie. Nothing's going to just miraculously change at Chelsea. We're not suddenly going to be contending for the title come next season because we've picked a better manager. They're still going to need time as well. So I suppose the question is, to everyone watching and to every Chelsea fan, what is the threshold here? When is enough? Because I know a lot of people have given up back in December, October. Like, we're late to this party where we're now losing trust with Poch, perhaps. But it's what's the minimum here? Like, what needs to happen this season for you to give Poch a chance? And I'm telling you that a lot of people will say, even if we get Europe, they don't want Pochettino here next season to be the one that guides us through European competitions, because he just probably isn't the guy. So I guess we have to ask ourselves, what is it we expect? And is there anything that will make us believe in Pochettino for him to be the man forward? Because it's not necessarily just saying, get Europe, Poch, and then we trust you. You could be the man. It could still be, get Europe, Poch, but because things are the way they are, and your tactical decisions and your managerial choices, we just lose trust with you a little bit.
I mean, where do you see the positives then? Because we talk about positives and negatives. I personally think that there are players that have developed under Pochettino, more players than are given credit for. But I also see, the Enzos and, players like that who have actually regressed under Pochettino. So I understand both sides, but you can't just look at the negatives. So what can we take that is good?
I think, one thing, we're certainly scoring more goals. Now, you can look at that and say, well, actually, because we've upgraded in our attacking players compared to last season, that makes a difference. But I also think, the fact that we are scoring 2-3 goals a game, most games recently, and certainly across the course of the season, he does deserve some credit for that. If you're going to be quick to criticise him, which a lot of people are, and rightfully so, then on things that are good, you also have to be fair and give praise. Yes, as I said, maybe part of that's down to the fact we've got better attacking players, but we are better in attack now. We're scoring so many more goals. Unfortunately, the other 2/3 of the pitch isn't as good and has definitely regressed compared to last season. So I think the point about players developing, a lot of people say, he's not that many players have developed. Cole Palmer has come on leaps and bounds this season. You have to give Pochettino some credit for that. The same with Malo Gusto. Conor Gallagher, whether you like it or not, is playing the best football of his career. That some credit has to be given to the manager for that as well. I think the likes of Mudryk and Madueke are starting to make a little bit of an impact. They're making differences in games, not every week right now, but they are making a difference. They've definitely improved compared to the level we were seeing from them when they were playing last season. So in that aspect, there absolutely is. Other than that, I mean, the fact that we compete in big games, we had struggled to compete in big games for quite a while. And now we are competing in big games, we're scoring 4 goals against Man City, we're scoring 4 against Tottenham, we're scoring 4 against Man United. We're competing in the big games. And in the big games, our record isn't terrible. But then on the flip side, the lesser games and the sort of your more run-of-the-mill games, we don't seem up for it. There doesn't seem to be the motivation there. I don't know what the problem is, but look, I think you have to say that attacking-wise, we've improved, and there have been some improvements under from certain players. But then after that, you are sort of thinking a little bit, you are sort of thinking, well, actually, what else has got better? What else has been done well? I think, in fairness, like whether people believe it or not, the players like playing for him. I think he's a good man manager.
I was going to say that, yeah.
But other than that, I think tactically he's been found wanting more from the not in-game management's dreadful. But a part of me does still think that I like if we can get, and this is a big if we can get like these players fit and have even just 3/4 of a squad fit. Let's see what happens when we've got a fully fit Reece James, a fully fit Ben Chilwell, fully fit Nkunku, fully fit Romeo Lavia. Like let's see what this team looks like. What's this team going to look like with an Osimhen, for example, at the top end of the pitch? I just think I don't want to say it's too early to judge because you can only judge what's in front of you, but I think like those are fair and mitigating circumstances that any manager would struggle to deal with. But yeah, in terms of positives, there aren't loads. But part of me thinks there's enough there to warrant another go. I know that might not be a popular opinion, but again, it depends how the season finishes. But if you add those injured players back into the mix, you had a top-class centre-forward, which hopefully will sign this summer, things could potentially look very different. I think the team will look very different as well. Plus, they'd have a year under Pochettino, experience-wise under their belts, and they should be better for that next season if he stays. So I think short-term's not been amazing, but I think there is room to be optimistic over the longer term.
Well, it's interesting as well when you talk about the injuries and the money we spent. Fofana, for me, he would start in this team. Lavia definitely gets 4 minutes. Yeah. I think there would be rotation there. Reece James is our club captain.
Nkunku.
Nkunku. Cole Palmer apparently is fit, so that's fine. Disasi, again, not fully fit. Enzo Fernandez, not fully fit. Sterling, Sanchez, Colwell, Ugachukwu.
I'd say on Enzo's not, I don't know if you guys agree with me. I don't think Enzo's been very well taken care of at Chelsea this season, and I think he's been pushed beyond. I will defend Enzo to the ends of this earth because I think what fans don't realise is he's been on and off going away to international duty, probably the furthest, alongside with Caicedo, they have to in terms of travel. He's had injuries where he's pushed through and still continued to play regardless because we've needed to sponge every single bit out of it because, when you do come to Chelsea as a record-breaking Premier League transfer, you are expected to play, you are expected to perform, not to mention that you've just won the World Cup as well and you're expected to bring that mentality and all the flowers that comes with it. And I just think that settling into this Premier League environment as a young player as well, because he's so young himself, and having to play alongside another really expensive midfielder that basically had so much pressure, by the media, by fans to be contending for, top 3 midfields in the Premier League because that's what they were envisioned to be this season. And it's just not quite worked out. And I think he gets a lot of stick for it. And I think that, he's not the best player. He's just come out and said himself that he is disappointed perhaps at the way things have gone this season, but he's had so many external factors as well. And I just think he's done the best he can do, maybe not in terms of footballing ability, but giving his all when he plays, trying constantly, turning up, being there, trying to build this relationship with the fans. And for me, that hasn't gone unnoticed. And I really appreciate him for that because a lot of players have come and gone at Chelsea this season, last season, and it's been very hard to like players, to trust players, to build these relationships with players. But I think Enzo has really proved that he wants to be here and fight for his place and do good things. And I think he's had a good foundation start. It's not been amazing, but definitely things there to look forward to and build on. And what Charlie said earlier about the positives of Poch is, I think, again, a positive or perhaps an improvement from Graham Potter is the relationship he's managed to build with some of these players because they come out constantly and say that they're really happy with how things are in training.
I think it does help, that he's actually got a squad of players that want to be here. I think in defence of Potter, he was juggling with a team where half of them didn't give a fuck and didn't want to be there. Half of them didn't even respect him. So, look, it's good that, they seem to like him. There's a good relationship. One thing I would say about these players is that it is, despite the fact we're struggling, it is probably one of the most likable groups we've had in a long time. I don't look at any of those players and think, fucking can't stand that guy. Yeah, Sterling fucks me off because he
yeah, I was
bullshit.
going to say that.
But I don't look at him and think I hate this guy or he's not trying or whatever. I look at those players and I don't think, we go to a lot of games, I don't look at that and think, you know what, he doesn't want to be here. These guys aren't up for the fight. They're not putting in effort. Like, I don't think you can throw that at this group. Absolutely, last season you could, but I think that's why maybe more fans go against the manager than the players, because this group is so likable.
Yeah. And can I just add finally, sorry, Alex, just to that point, that I think that's so important, and it's so admirable that these players, throughout the chaos that has happened at Chelsea in the last, almost 2 years, have managed to, I know a lot of them have kind of just been here for a year, less than a year even, but it's so admirable that they've still managed to stay positive. It's so difficult, we're just on the outside looking in, but they're training, they're dealing with everything that comes, all the backlash that comes after, games don't go well, and them trying, and players trying to believe in this project that they were all promised at the start when they were signing contracts, when they were being sort of persuaded to come to Chelsea or whatnot. And I think the fact that they still managed to look remotely interested in Chelsea right now for these young players, that of course all of them want pretty careers, of course they want to win trophies. Some of these players have not had a taste of European stages, of course they want that, and I just think it's great that they're still managing to rock up and still try and pour their hearts out on the pitch. And Charlie's right, that didn't happen last season.
Let me ask you this, Nina, just going back to Enzo a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think that him and Caicedo is a partnership that will actually work long term?
See, that's the difficulty, isn't it? It's tricky to say, because I think the narrative was created almost before we saw anything of the two of them together, because very different players, and they both came in with very almost different backgrounds, perhaps a very good season each. And Caicedo being in the Premier League, we thought that might be almost a stepping stone to him already settling into this environment. Enzo just coming along and kind of integrating himself with that. But I think it's very difficult, and almost with everything that chopped and changed around them, I almost think, how could they possibly have been playing sustainably game in, game out, when they're constantly surrounded by new players as well? Because I think they've been the very few players that have stayed stationary in these lineups kind of this year. There's been a lot of chopping and changes in the back line, equally in the front line, because we've been experimenting, bar a few players that have managed to, solidify their places, like your Cole Palmers. And I just think that's also very difficult, isn't it, when you're settling in and you're coming up against the toughest midfielders in the world, let alone the Premier League, and to have to cope with that as such young players. I just think the pressure was almost too much for them, because we painted this picture of these two are going to be absolutely insane. And I myself am at fault maybe of doing that. As soon as Enzo came in, I said, he's crying for that partner, isn't he? Someone there in midfield that he can play alongside, because I think he was so brilliant when he came in January, and I think he was always needing that partner. And as soon as, we were in for Caicedo, pushing in summer, going back and forth with Brighton, I just think that we almost believed it then that Caicedo and Enzo could be something. And I just think because it's not this season, people have lost belief completely. But there's a lot of potential there. That's for sure. It was overpriced, overvalued 100%, but that's not their fault, is it? And I just think there is definitely something there worth believing. But it'll be interesting to see, because we can sort of rotate around, and we can see a midfield of three. We can see maybe how Lavia fits alongside with them, and maybe if that ups their game, provides that extra kind of step up, pushes their game. But yeah, I suppose it's just a big what if, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and as well, when we talk about the fact that the players are still interested, there is still a lot to play for. I mean, people seem to think the season's out the 100%. Window. We are still competing for Europe. Whether we get Europe, that's another discussion. And we're still in the FA Cup. And if we can win that trophy, in my eyes, I mean, what an achievement with such a young squad. And among all the chaos, we've managed to pull out a trophy. For me, that would be a fantastic achievement for this squad. Although people go, oh, it should be like that every season. But this is a new team. And that's why I would give them so much credit if they can do it. Do I think they can? No. Not from what I saw against Sheffield, not from the past few games. But look, I'm still holding out some hope. You've got to try and be positive. I understand that some people don't want to pay the money. I'm going to keep going even if we're shy. But the money,
I like the pain.
It's true. I'm addicted to the pain. Me and Charlie were talking about it all the time. It's the drug that you keep coming back to, and that is Chelsea. And I used to have this conversation because I've got a lot of Crystal Palace mates. And I used to say, I always wondered what it would be like following a mid-table team. And they said, Alex, they said it'd be so much more fun than following Chelsea because you're going to enjoy those wins so much more. And they're right with that. But it's not as fun as watching Chelsea when we're up there. It's just not. But I mean, respect to any fan that goes and watches their team.
Yeah.
What I will say is the operating losses came out for last season. Chelsea had the highest operating loss last season, losing £248 million, almost £100 million more than their nearest rival, Leicester, who recorded a £152 million deficit. So when we talk about the risks and the fact that we need European football, it's not just obviously to keep fans happy, it's to keep the club running so we can keep up with the wage bills and obviously continue to sign players and progress. Now, Charlie, I know we found out about this quite recently, but talk to me about everything, because you mentioned that actually, although we did make a loss, we also made quite a lot of money back.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not an accountant by any means. This is just something I quickly see
are.
on Twitter. No, I'm absolutely not. But yeah, like obviously, operating loss day-to-day stuff. Yeah, £248 million. However, that is reduced to 90 million. I say just 90 million. 90 million is still a big loss, but it's nowhere near as bad as 248. But obviously, through player sales, through Blueco, Chelsea sold a hotel to Blueco for like 70 odd million pounds. So that we got some of that money back. There was and some other bits and pieces. So basically, like, yes, whilst it's 248 million operating losses, like when you factor in those other accounts, it does drop down to 90 million pounds. And with the set of figures that have been released, like, and that's enough for us to pass the PSR rules with those figures. So I don't think we need to be overly concerned about that. We've also got a lot of sellable assets to sell this summer to just doubly make sure that we're all right. So yeah, look, there obviously are a number of mitigating factors to the finances. I think we had the second highest wage bill last season, but obviously because wages went up because we made the Champions League quarterfinal, obviously because we're not in the Champions League, those wages then subsequently dropped this season. So like whenever the next lot come out, like our wage bill definitely won't be as high because we haven't hit the targets to increase like wages and stuff. But yeah, look, all football clubs are operating at more than the majority of football clubs are operating at a loss. But yeah, I mean, I don't know too much more about it, but we do need that European money as quickly as possible. There's no denying it, because it's not, we can't carry on missing out on European football, because that Champions League does get you 70, 80 million pounds a season. And you do need it. I mean, our TV revenue's gone down because we've not been playing in Europe and whatnot. So yeah, these are things that we need to get back to.
Even our league form as well. If I'm being honest with you, I know I go to the games anyway, so it doesn't really bother me what's on the TV. But Sky and TNT Sports, who are the main broadcasters,
We're not on much.
Yeah, we're not on. They'll give us a lot of the 3 o'clock kickoffs, which aren't televised in the UK, and we are slowly becoming irrelevant. It's unfortunate, it's sad, but it's true. And it's not just because we're not good in Europe, it's because we're not good in our own league. So if we can get back into Europe, I think it's about more than just finances. I think it's also about giving the young players the chance to have a run out and not have the pressure of having to deliver in the same way that you have to deliver in the Premier League. I remember when we were competing in the Europa League under Sarri, he was much more happy to give Callum Hudson-Odoi and Ruben Loftus-Cheek minutes. And they actually both scored hat-tricks, if I'm not wrong, in the Europa League. And that gave them the push to then start in the Premier League games. So people really underestimate European competition. Obviously, we know what Champions League gives you, but Conference League, Europa League would give us an awful lot as well. Because
Conference League, people like sort of turning their nose up at it and stuff and saying, "Oh, it's shit, I'd rather have no Europe." Like, it's not about the competition itself. It's about the fact that we need these extra games to give these players the minutes that they need to develop. Like, the squad's too big and we've got too many players that need minutes to develop their game to be playing once a week. So none of us want to be in the Conference League, but
I do.
rather be in,
Everyone in the Conference League. It's not
rather be in
the cabinet.
I'd rather be in the Conference League where we can actually play these players, give younger players a chance, give them full 90 minutes and whatnot, than not at all. Like, I don't care what the competition is to a certain degree. Next season, we just need to be playing more games so that we can give these guys minutes to develop. Otherwise, a lot of these guys playing once a week are going to stagnate because there simply isn't the minutes to give everyone.
No, it's true. Very true. And as well, if you look at the assets, I mean, we'll talk about assets we have in the club right now, but the assets we have on loan as well, some of which I don't even want them to leave. I would love them to come back to the club. But in terms of sellable assets, you've got Hakim Ziyech. We know he doesn't want to be here. Lukaku, he doesn't want to be here. Broha, for me.
Will go.
Yeah, he's got to go. Lewis Hall will probably be sold.
His loan deal to Newcastle will become an obligation. So he's gone. He's gone.
Ian Maatson, Kepa. I mean, that's just on loan, and then not to mention the players we have coming back that I think do have some potential. I think Fofana's doing a great job at Burnley. Be very interested to see if he gets an opportunity to play for Chelsea.
I think he'll go on loan again next season. I think he'll go on loan again.
And I think that's the best thing as well.
Like a full season on loan in the Premier League. Like just someone in the Premier League will take him. Like even if it's a newly promoted club or one of the clubs that literally only just stayed up, like that's fine. He just needs to be playing in the Prem every week.
I agree.
That's true. Andre Santos was Player of the Month in France at Strasbourg. He's having a phenomenal loan now. He's really starting to kick into form. I know there was a bit of fuss about him not starting when he first came in, but he's obviously getting the minutes now and he's doing very well. Amara Hutchinson, who's doing very well in the Championship. Bashir Humphreys, we saw him play away at Man City last season. He'll probably have another loan, but I think he's got great potential. There's just a lot of good players, man. And I think the concern isn't, can we get rid of these players? I think this is obvious, the players that are sellable assets. The question is really, can we get rid of them in time for the deadline, which is at the end of June, so that we then are in line with FFP and we can make the signings as well?
Well, I don't think we need to sell before we can buy. I don't believe that to be the case. But yeah, look, we do need to raise the money, but I don't think there's anything to worry about. One thing that we're very good at is selling players, and there are plenty of players there that we can sell and easily raise that money. Of course, it needs to be done reasonably quickly. You've got Euros this summer. You don't want to be trying to do transfer business during an international tournament. It's always a little bit more tricky to get stuff done. So yeah, I'm not saying the pressure's on, but it is slightly time. There are some time constraints on it, given there's a Euros and there's the Olympics as well. Which, I mean, I don't know what Chelsea players, if any, are going to be in there, but there are definitely 6 or 7 that would be eligible to go and play.
Yeah, and the question as well is if we are selling, and let's just presume we can do what we need to do, how much do we need to spend in order to get back on track?
Well, it depends what we're doing. Like for me personally, if there's no leeway to bring in some leadership and players that have been around the block a little bit more, legitimately, if we're just going to continue going down the route we've been going down by signing kids and potential, I'd actually rather us spend no money and work on developing what we've got. The last thing this young squad needs is more young, unproven, unexperienced players being added to it. That's not for me. So if there's no leeway to deviate off this course, then I'd rather we spent no money whatsoever this summer if we're just going to carry on doing that, because that's not what we need. Like, read the room, add what we need. Like, how many times do fans need to say it? How many times do the manager need to say it? It's everyone knows what we need to do, except seemingly the people that are in charge of doing it. So, like, it's for me, we need a centre forward. We need some leadership. We could probably do with a centre back, and then anything else depends on if kind of operate on a 1-in, 1-out basis. But for me, we probably need 3 players this summer in terms for the first team. Obviously, they'll add more for the squad or whatever and development. But centre forward, a centre back, and possibly a left back would be the 3 areas I'd be looking at. But you have to add experience and leadership, players who have got leadership. Because if we don't do that and we just add more potential that might be good, it's just pointless, completely pointless.
Yeah. Are there any names that stand out to you, Nina?
What, in terms of incoming transfers?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'd prioritise a left back over a centre back purely because I think in the centre back spots we have enough. If you take away the injuries and you've got Wesley Fofana, you've got Levi Colwill, he was brought in to be a regular starter as well. You've got Badia Shil, who's had a tough start to life at Chelsea. I think he looked better at the start when he came in that 1st January, but I think it's been a bit of a struggle. He's had injuries as well, though I think that's also needed to be taken into consideration. Disasi has been hot and cold, and I think he's still developing. But you've got 4 centre backs there that you would want to see. Whether there'd be 2 partnerships there, whether you rotate. I think I'd definitely bring in a left back. Cucurella, we still have not seen the 60 million left back that we wanted to bring in, and I think he's still got some proving to do. I think there's definitely a reason to keep him, though. I don't know. Would you sell Cucurella? It's a tough one.
Well, I don't think I would. I think he deserves another chance.
He deserves to say, yeah. He's
Problem
not been.
is, though, I think they're looking to try and find someone like a Malo Gusto for the left-hand side. Admittedly, Cucurella probably isn't that guy.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, like right now for me, in terms of overall play, there really isn't that much difference between Cucurella and Chilwell at this point in time.
I would agree with that.
Much better.
I mean, look, Chilwell pre-injury, like he's absolutely clear, but Chile's had a lot of major injury problems, and look, maybe he's still getting up to speed a little bit, but he definitely doesn't look the same player that he was before his ACL, before that major hamstring injury. Like he's still finding his feet and he is struggling a little bit. And right now, for me, there's not much difference between Cucurella and Chilwell, but we know full well Chilwell's not going to be sold this summer. And if anyone's going to go, it will be Cucurella. But we'll be taking a massive loss on him because no one's going to pay anywhere near what we paid for him. I think at best, you'd be lucky if you got 30 million for him.
I think it's embarrassing if we sell Cucurella, especially because of the money we paid for him and the contract he's on. All that says is the ownership are just moving backwards. They're running scared,
it just goes to show that first summer where Bowley was kind of the interim sporting director, as it were. Like if Cucurella does leave, that first summer is looking absolutely shambolic,
It was rubbish.
And I think ultimately you can look at that. That set us back a good season or two. We bought an Aubameyang, been and gone. Shocking. Koulibaly, been and gone. I actually didn't think he was that bad, but he's gone as well. That's 2 of them gone. Raheem Sterling's been dog shit. Hopefully he goes as soon as possible. Who else did we sign? Fofana we signed that summer. He's barely kicked a ball for us. I'm not going to be too harsh on him because I actually think he's a very good player, but he's not kicked a ball for us. Cucurella, the jury's out still. That's 5 players there. We bought in Zakaria on loan and whatnot. Like these signings that we made in that first summer under Bowley, not a single one you can say has been a success so far. That first window is looking worse and worse with every day that goes by.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. You know what it is? The more I speak about Chelsea, the more I just think, God, I want to bury my head in the sand. And this
remind you, yeah. It does bring up some feelings.
Well, I mean, I'm getting to a stage where I'm getting seriously sick and tired of it. But listen,
I'm a bit numb to it, really. Like it just is.
You get used to it, don't you, Nina?
We survived last season, and this season is a little bit better. So I suppose
it's way better this season.
Last season was
telling me the last season was better than this season. You are
last season wasn't better. It was nowhere near better.
It makes you stronger, guys.
Alex, remember last season when we sat in the Amex and we lost 4-1 on Pochettino and we were getting pelters from all 3 sides from Brighton, getting absolutely hammered. That was really the lowest moment.
No.
And the loss to United.
You think that was worse than Man United away? Or Man City away?
Well, Man United away, though, was 4-1. It was frank, and it was like last away of the season. You kind of expected it. That Brighton one was where, for me, that's where the wheels started to fall off because at that point, we've been unbeaten under Potter.
Let me throw another one in. Sorry, guys. Southampton home and away, anyone?
Yeah, but that was...
Southampton home was shocking.
Home. Southampton are home.
Away was pretty poor as well, though.
Yeah, but Tuchel was still here. We still had vibes. Tuchel vibes.
Mate,
God.
no, fair, but there's been there have been some. I don't count too many horrendous moments this season.
I mean,
there's
all
a few.
Wow, how we have improved, guys. Less horrendous moment.
Well, yeah, there's not been.
This is where I reached the delirious stage. Like, this is where I just reached the delirious stage.
As Arteta would say, this is the fucking standard. Where we are. All we can do.
Well, that was a great impression, Alex.
It was good, that, mate. It was like we're chatting to Mikel.
Thank you, mate. I'm just visualising a good manager. I'm visualising good moments. That's all I'm doing.
To be fair, I don't want to compare us to Arsenal. Arteta was shit for 2 years.
There you go.
I'm not saying it's the same, but there is something to be said by giving a manager an opportunity.
But he didn't. He wasn't. The club didn't spend.
Arsenal be right now if they'd fucked off Arteta like 3/4 of their fan base wanted them to do.
They
wouldn't be doing what they're doing now. They've not won anything, but they would not be competing for Premier League titles if they fucked off Arteta like the fans wanted them to do, like 2 seasons in.
No, that is very true. We're going to go on to the Everton preview as well. Now, if this is anything like the away fixture, we're in trouble, people.
Mate, away fixture was awful.
We were horrific. We stood outside when we did the fan cams. I remember Pochettino's assistant came out, didn't speak to the fans, just spoke to a random guy in Spanish. It was a little bit embarrassing, to be honest with you. At least acknowledge
that was the game that Reece James got injured again in. We haven't seen him since.
Oh, mate. I hope that we can find a way to get something out of this result, because the way things have been recently, we just, I mean, let's go through their fixtures.
But do you go in, head into any Chelsea game feeling, we're going to win this one? Like, no. You feel confident winning it. I can't remember the last time I entered a Chelsea match feeling 90%, 100% confident we're definitely going to win this game. Like, even the shittest games at home, like Burnley and stuff, and going into it thinking, I'm actually not sure we can win this game. Like, heading into every game now, not actually sure, regardless of the opposition. I feel more confident, right, about getting points against Arsenal, Villa, Spurs than I did about getting points against Sheffield United and Burnley. That's a ridiculous situation. This Everton game kind of falls into that same bracket, one that we should absolutely be winning, but I sit here and I can't bring myself to say that I think we're going to win it.
Well, I mean, they got a clean sheet in their last game against Burnley. Apart from that, they conceded in their last 4 from what I've seen. So we should be able to score a goal against these guys, especially because we've got the home fixture.
I don't worry about us scoring goals.
Can we keep a clean sheet?
This is it. Scoring goals is not a problem for us. Defensively, we're shambolic. And as I said to you after the Sheffield United game, mate, like, if you're having to score 2 or 3 goals to even have a chance of getting a point, let alone win, you're asking for big, big trouble. And that's what we're doing at the moment. We're having to score 2 or 3 goals to get to guarantee ourselves just 1 point.
Yeah. We leak goals, that's it. We will give teams chances, then the ball's in their court, literally, because it's like, if you can score your chance, then great, because we'll give you chances. Question is, will you score them? It's like that every game. Like, we give teams chances after chances after chances. And Charlie's right. We just have to try and outscore. Like, it's incredibly crazy to say that you have to score 3-4 goals in order to get a draw at times, or to just hang on. But we've been conceding a minimum of 2 goals now, 6 games in a row. So
8 games in a row.
8 games in a row. Wow, there you go. And Everton can create. They can get a chance against us, 100%. I mean, I'd like to say that, we're still fighting. We've got things to play for this season. So if they want to boost their surviving hopes. But I just think that it really depends. And if we're not turning up against these teams, we've struggled against lower level opposition so much this season, then why do I have any faith in this game? I really don't. It's at home, but that's it, really. What does that even do for us this season? It's not even like we can say, away form's poor. Our home form has been better. It's been. We
have only lost once since October at home. I mean,
but in terms,
the home form is better for sure, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop us from conceding goals, is what I want to say.
No, absolutely not. No.
Score predictions.
Silence in the building.
Score predictions.
I hate doing score predictions. I
think we can maybe nick a narrow 2-1 win, but I really wouldn't be surprised if this game was a draw.
I'd say 2-2.
That sounds about right to me.
Yeah,
let's add another 2-2.
We had 2-2
Well, you need
last
another
season.
2 goals, Charlie, mate. Come on, keep up the trend.
Well, maybe we might just let one in, but yeah, I think we can. I think we can just about nick it 2-1. But what I would say is, if we don't win this game, we're not going to qualify for Europe, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Are you out if we lose?
No, not if we lose. But like what I'm saying is that we can forget qualifying. We can forget qualifying for Europe if we don't win this game, whether that's a draw or a loss. For me, that's Europe over, given what we've got coming up.
Yeah, and I think it would be even more horrible as well, because obviously Everton have been very hit with like their points deduction, and it's just not been made difficult. And I think, you know, if they like want to convert that into anger and try and, you know, win some games, just at least for the fans and every misery they've had to endure this season and last season, and, you know, clawing their way constantly to survive and stay up in the Prem, I think they've also got that in their locker. And I think Chelsea do struggle against teams that have something at stake or something that, you know, they're fighting for. And we see it because all the teams that are fighting for survival this season have managed to score goals, almost win as well. We're talking 10-man Burnley that almost won against us as well. At least Everton beat 10-man Burnley.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
It's just not good enough. Wow, what a positive way to end this. Yay.
That's it, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel. We're not getting points, so let's get some subscribers. How about that? I'll leave Charlie's channels in the description. Go and check out their channels. And if you haven't already left a thumbs up, we always appreciate it. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of the comments that we've made. Pray for Chelsea, but most importantly, pray for Chelsea fans. Long live the chase for European football. We might be doing it for a while, but hopefully we'll get one step closer. All the best, guys, and we will speak very, very soon.